Hello everybody, it's Jonny Khatru, and today I'm going to be revisiting one of the 5 King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard albums released in 2017, Polygondwanaland. Now I did listen to this album at the time, along with the other albums released by the band that year. However, I was listening on Spotify, and for some reason, shortly after release, it was taken off the platform. I loved the album though, it was possibly my favourite album I'd heard from them up to that point, as I recall. So I figured, I'll get around to it again sometime, I'll come back to it. But I suppose it slipped my mind, and only recently did I think, hold on, I never came back to that album, I never even gave it a rating. So I was thinking, maybe I need some extra encouragement to get back into this album that's now 4 years old. So here's Jonty, the album guy, with a quick introduction to Polygondwanaland.
Jonny, I'm sure you are going to love this album. You did when it was first released, and I know you haven't heard it in a while, but I don't see why it would be any different now. I know that a few weeks ago you reviewed King Gizzard's latest album, Butterfly 3000. Well, Polygondwanaland is in quite a similar vein, aside from the use of synthesizers, of course. Polygondwanaland has the same use of odd time signatures, the same complex polyrhythms, the same occasional synth arpeggios, and the same seamless transitions from front to back, which makes the whole thing feel like a holistic experience. However, I think Polygondwanaland has the strongest track listing. It's the most consistently quality album, which kind of explains why you loved it when it first came out. As a big fan of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard myself, I can pretty easily say that this is up there with some of their best albums, and is easily one of the best albums that they released in 2017, of which there were 5. So Jonny, I hope you enjoy, and I'm pretty sure you will.
Thanks Jonty, it sounds fantastic. You can check out Jonty's channel, The Album Guy, with the link up here. And yeah, I do remember Polygondwanaland being particularly proggy for a King Gizzard album, and I'm a huge prog rock fan, so I am pretty excited to get back into this album at last. So do me a favor and click the like button on this video, and let's get started with track 1. It's called Crumbling Castle. What a trip. Fantastic opening track. And so damn epic. It's got to be the most epic King Gizzard song ever, right? I can definitely see why I was impressed by this one on my first listen. And I do remember the Crumbling Castle main lyric, you know, the hook, you could say. I do remember that. It came right back to me. But you know, during those vocal sections, there's almost something mournful, something kind of melancholic in the writing on this one, which I think is kind of unusual for King Gizzard. It almost has a more serious overtone than what we usually get from them, rather than the more sort of ridiculous, playful kind of feeling we often get. Yeah, this was really quite heavy, and not just in terms of the heavy guitars. It gives this track quite a bit of emotion, and I do like that. But it's offset by the more freaky instrumental passages, which give us something a little bit different each time as they pop up through the 10-minute runtime of the track. I love all the tricky little sections, all the polyrhythms, which Jonty quite correctly said also appear on Butterfly 3000. But I have to say, I think that this track is the best use of them I've heard. You know, it just supports the overall song so well in the way that all the best progressive rock does. It just captures that balance between complexity and excitement, the feeling of the song. But that ending really took me by surprise. I didn't remember that at all. That was one of the heaviest things I've heard from King Gizzard, and so slow. It was like a sludgy stoner rock kind of jam at the end there. Love it. What a fantastic way to start an album. And moving on to track 2, it's the title track, Polygondwanaland. Another great track there. Even more fascinating polyrhythms, this time over the bass of a 5/8 rhythm, but definitely something extra psychedelic about this one. Not just in the vibe, but the polyrhythms themselves make it feel all kind of bizarre. And the use of what I think sounds like a mellotron flute really ramps up the early prog, late 60s kind of vibe of the song. And it has a pretty memorable melody to boot. Works great as a title track, feels really emblematic for the album. So yeah, another great one. Moving on to track 3, it's called The Castle in the Air. I'm very sorry to be pausing it between the songs, but I need to be able to talk about them. But it sounds like they've got some really cool transitions going on. I will listen to the album again later, not too long later though, just to hear it all in its entirety without stopping between the songs and to, you know, give it another chance to grow on me once again. So yeah, track 3, The Castle in the Air. Another really cool song, bit of a short one this time. I really liked the bit of spoken word at the beginning, but this time it was a lovely human voice, not a bloody vomiting robot. And the use of acoustic guitar over the polyrhythms once again, it got me thinking of what they would do later on the KG and LW albums a bit more. A lot of that kind of tricky acoustic guitar picking. I think it sounds great when they do that. And then in the second half of the song, we had these layers of percussion, again in all these different polyrhythms, but this time with synthesizers sort of splurging all over it. Sounded great and almost reminiscent of Butterfly 3000. But yeah, it was another great one. So let's move on to track 4. It's called, it's so long I can't read it all, Deserted Dunes Welcome Weary Feet. Oh, that's an intense one. I love the fast pace. Really gets the heart pumping, you know. And there were some slightly sinister chord changes in the chorus of this one. And I did think that was a nice touch. Changed up the mood a little bit just for a moment. But yeah, overall just loved the energy of this one and really enjoyed the ascending arpeggios towards the end. Kind of gave everything a kind of swirling experience kind of feeling. Obviously they are going for something kind of technical, kind of expansive on this album, very progressive, but they haven't at all thrown out the psychedelic vibe that they always go for. It's absolutely trippy. They're just using the more complex arrangements to serve that end, to make things even more freaky in that way that psychedelia often is. The next song, track 5, is called Inner Cell. More sinister vibes on this one. I love that. And I do actually remember this one quite well. It was definitely one of my favorites back in 2017. The synth sounds they use on this one give me the vibe of a 90s video game, which I'm very into. It's a sound I'm nostalgic for from my childhood. But I think this song's biggest strength is just its contrast of emotions. You know, the chorus, especially towards the end, it's actually quite emotional. Gets through to me anyway. So yeah, that's a fucking great track. So moving on to track 6, it's called Loyalty. Oh, okay. That's a transition I was very loath to pause on. But yeah, it was a really cool groove on that one. It just flowed so nicely. And again, we had the Mellotron flutes taking us back to those early prog, early psychedelic days. Really excellent bass on that track as well. You know, everything from funky licks to really heavy, plucked hard bass. So yeah, another great one. And let's move on into track 7. It's called Horology. Just like the plant was crushed, brushed away with death. Okay, a definitive ending on this one. A very herky-jerky take on a 7/8 rhythm in this one. And it sounds pretty cool, but maybe is not the most memorable in terms of melody. Maybe at this point I'm feeling that the whole polyrhythms with 60s sounds on top is getting a little bit old. I would like to hear them switch up the atmosphere in some way before the end of the album. You know, it sounds great and it's another good song, but I'm just hoping for some more variety before the end. So track 8 is called Tetrachromacy. Okay, so I think that at least at the start, the move to a slower tempo on this song was definitely what was needed. I was glad to hear the acoustic guitars making another appearance on this one. Sounds great. And we got a nice bit of the old harmonica towards the end. It's great to hear. The next song, track 9, is called 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐿. Nice bit of 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐽 vocals going back and forth there towards the end, leading us into the next track. But yeah, I loved the more open, ambient introduction to this song. It was a switch up in the atmosphere even more so than the last one, so definitely fulfilled what I felt was needed. Not the best melody necessarily, but I did really enjoy the extra psychedelic feel of this one. It works really well at this late stage on the album and sets us up for hopefully a big finish in the last track. I am going to take it back a little bit just so we can hear that transition, but the 10th track, the last song, is called The Fourth Color. Fantastic. Huge. Love it. I actually remember this song very, very well from hearing it back 4 years ago. Amazingly memorable tune, especially the chorus melody and some of the guitar licks. I remembered them straight away. I was pretty sure the album was going to end and Crumbling Castle was going to remain my favorite, but this one definitely competes for best track on the album. I love the chaotic parts just as much as the more subdued parts, and I really enjoy the fake out at the end before they come back in for one last mega jam. I wonder if they were inspired by the end of In the Court of the Crimson King for that trick. I see the Aussies spell the word colour the same way as us Brits with the U there. Nice. But yeah, what a track. Very memorable, very exciting. Just a hell of a King Gizzard song and a perfect album closer. I loved it. So yeah, on the whole, love the album. It's definitely as chaotic and enjoyable as I remembered. I'm really glad it lived up to my feelings that I've carried ever since I heard the album back when it came out. I really enjoyed the mixture of mathematically complex polyrhythms, layering rhythms on top of each other with the psychedelic vibe that King Gizzard do so well. And in a way, this album feels like one long composition, not only because so many of the tracks bleed into each other, but because the mood kind of is sustained throughout the album. And that's not always a strength. Like I did mention at one point in the second half, there were some times where I felt that it was getting slightly repetitive and they could have switched it up a bit sooner. But on the other hand, it's a mood and an approach that works so well that you can't complain too much. And I do think it is King Gizzard doing what they do best, and is probably one of their best albums. Possibly my favorite album of theirs, but I'm gonna listen to it once or twice more very soon to get a read on that. But I definitely feel as strongly about it as I do their other great albums such as Nonagon Infinity and for me KGLW. So yeah, I really enjoyed the album. King Gizzard are a fantastic band, and just like everyone else, I can't wait to hear what they do next. I think they do have another album coming out quite soon, and of course I'll be making a video about it, so subscribe to not miss that. I want to say thank you to Jonty for his introduction in this video. Really enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed this video, you can use the link in the description to buy me a coffee. I'll really appreciate it. It really does help me to be able to keep making these videos, keep this channel going. So thank you very much for watching. And until next time, take it easy.